Our congregation is St. Mark's and All Saints. It is the result of a merger between St. Mark's Riverside and All Saints Amherst. And it is the tradition within the Episcopal Church that if a feast day particular to a congregation appears during the following week, and Sunday is not a feast day or a solemnity, then the feast day can be celebrated in lieu of the Sunday readings. So for the rest of the Episcopal Church, and for most liturgical denominations, including Lutherans, Methodists, and Roman Catholics, today is Good Shepherd Sunday, and all of the readings relate to the notion of Jesus as the Good Shepherd. But our readings today center primarily around the author of the second book of the New Testament, a man who has come to have been known as Mark. Now, not only did Mark write the second book of the New Testament, but the book is the first of the Gospels to be written. And while John wrote independently, the Gospels of both Luke and Matthew are best understood to be heavily edited versions of Mark's Gospel. And if his Gospel had not been a success, Luke likely would never have written the Acts of the Apostles. So we, as 21st century Christians, really owe Mark for creating the synoptic Jesus and providing a narrative to the earliest days of the church. Now, Mark's Gospel is short. It can be read in a single sitting. It uses limited vocabulary. And in some ways, it follows the storytelling habits of small children. Throughout the Gospels, two Greek phrases, one we translate as "and then," and the other we translate immediately, appear over and over again. Like when a preschooler tells you about their day or why the window is broken. And then, immediately, and then, immediately. It is not sophisticated writing, and it is not concerned with a specific audience or congregation. Mark just wanted to make sure that those earliest Christians who were not alive to see Jesus nonetheless had a straightforward understanding of who he was in life. But he wrote at a time when Judaism was facing an existential threat from the Roman Empire and an identity crisis as rabbinical and Christian Judaism increasingly rivaled one another for the Jewish populations outside of Jerusalem. Now, it would be easy to see Mark's writing as at this specific time in the history of Christianity, right as the temple was being razed to the ground as a matter of luck. But as Episcopalians, while not seeing scriptures as written by God's own hand, we do see them as divinely inspired. And I think we see in the writing of Mark the image of Jesus as the Good Shepherd leading his flock. Shepherds care and keep watch over their flocks, leading them away from dangers and to places of good pasture. And through Mark, Christianity survived the fall of the temple and ultimately became one of the largest religions on earth, with billions of followers throughout the millennia. When one looks at the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus, this was not a foregone conclusion. The contemporary writers of Jesus' time, both Jewish and Gentile, barely mentioned his existence. He was just another rabble-raiser out of Galilee. But through Mark, the story of Jesus' life and the story of the first disciples were told and able to proliferate throughout the centuries. And through Mark, Luke and Matthew were able to elaborate and give a fuller understanding of these stories. When we look to this experience of Mark being led by the Good Shepherd during this great existential threat to the church, we're also able to see how Jesus continues to make a way for us today. Even when things seem bleak and the world is filled with cataclysms and hatred, you can see that Jesus will make a way for us, that we will be led from rocky ground and the lair of wolves into lush green pastures where we can eat our fill and rest. Amen.